someone who's really desperate for an income, like what would you say to that person?
That happens all the time. People who literally don't have any savings. So in that case, what I help them with is getting a job. Like, I wouldn't call it a survival job, but getting a job which is still somewhat related to their profession or has transferable skills to their profession, which will also then pay the bills for them.
Welcome back to Newcomers Podcast, people. Today I am talking with Yauhan Mehta. He says his friends call him Yo, and I'm like, I just couldn't stop laughing because honestly, I can imagine, like you said, if you say Yo, everyone just goes like, I like, no, they're talking to me. But welcome and thank you for coming on the Newcomers Podcast. Honestly, and I'll just get straight to it. While I was just kind of trying to say, can I even try to understand this fella who was born in India, moved to Dubai as a kid, then moved to Canada. This thing you say where you're like, or you said it a lot in across podcasts, where you say your years with your grandmother are the best in your life. Then Dubai was basically academics. Then what was Canada?
So first and foremost, Dozy, thank you so much for
Yeah,
having me on your podcast. A couple of people recommended me to you, and this is how I reached out. And I'm grateful, and
thank
I'm
you.
really blessed that I did, and I really look forward to this conversation today. Yes, the transition between time with my grandmother for the first few years of my life to Dubai, and then of course Canada after that, very very different. Each one of those paths of my journey. So the initial years with my grandmom were the best years, because I think as a child we get to experience the best years of our life, right?
Mm,
We don't have, for the most part, we don't have anything we need to worry about. It's a carefree life. We get up, we play, we have fun, we go back to sleep, right? And then we repeat the cycle over again. And that's
yeah,
exactly what I had for myself as well. And like typically with any grandparent, you'll get a lot of love, affection, pampering, which is what I got from my grandmother as well. So those were really really happy days, fond memories. I did that for the first 4 or 5 years of my life, and then transitioned to Dubai, which was completely different, because now I was in a different city, different country, and everything was different between Dubai and India. And
yeah,
this is where I started now living with my actual parents, with my siblings, going to school, wearing a uniform, and all of that. And it took some time getting used to, because I was so close to my grandmother, and now all of a sudden I was pulled away from her. So that was quite an emotional journey, at least to begin the first few months of me transitioning. And then lived in Dubai and had some amazing memories over there for 10 years. Mainly it was schooling over there, that and academics that we focused on. So there was not much to do besides that. Especially coming with parents who had such a big and strong focus on academics, and for good reason as
yeah.
well. And so yeah, Dubai for 10 years, and after that my parents said, you know what, at that point, which was back in 2000, so 25 years ago, there wasn't much for further education in Dubai, right? There weren't any reputable colleges,
Mm,
definitely no universities. So this is when they decided, let's move to a different country where there's more opportunities for higher education, which resulted in us moving to Canada back in 2000. And again, a massive transition, right? From, if you just look at weather wise, like plus 40 degrees to like now minus 10, minus 20, right? So 50 degrees difference in weather. And then of course, the people, the culture, the
mm,
food, the language, so many differences, right? And I know that, and I remember very distinctly that it took me a good 3 to 5 years to get used to Canada, to get used to the people, the accents, the culture, the food. Um, and and I very fond, even though it's been 25 years, I very fondly remember those initial years, and my feelings, my thoughts, my struggles, coming over here as a teenager, as a new immigrant. Yeah.
yeah. So I find your journey really interesting. It's like it's actually meta in a way, in the sense that you've gone from immigrant to immigrant career guide, like, which is really meta. And then and I wonder, I think the first question I probably want to ask before I get to this one is, move to Dubai at 5, then move to Canada in your teenage years. It wasn't any easier, even despite the fact that you had experienced it before. Like, did you go through the same emotions you went through the first time? Because I mean, you were a child, you were a kid at that point in time. So it's probably a bit different. There's more memories and stuff to carry with you.
Hmm.
But was it any easier settling to Canada? I mean, I know you say it's settling in 5 years, but was that move to Dubai and all the things you had to go through to get adjusted to living in Dubai, did it help when you moved to Canada?
No. So it was equally challenging, I would say. So, when I was 5 and when I moved to Dubai from India, I think the biggest challenge was that attachment and that bond I
Mm,
had built with my grandmother, because she was the only one I was staying with, and she was the only one I had really seen for most of my 5 years.
mm-hmm.
So that emotional connection and detaching myself from that was a big, big struggle. And then when I transitioned from Dubai to Canada, the struggle was more around identity,
Mm,
because now I was a teenager and now I'm leaving behind, part of my identity, my friends from school, and your typical teenager struggles, in
yeah,
addition to moving to a new country, which obviously complicated it even more. So it was, I would say, yeah, both were like very, very challenging, and challenging in very different ways.
yeah,
But with any challenge, it teaches you so much. And then you look back that, wow, like this is, where I was and what I did and what I faced. And then you learn from that. And now, being a father, I impart that same knowledge, wisdom, and guidance to my kids, right? So they don't have to struggle as much, and it's a
yeah,
hopefully a lot smoother for them.
yeah. I think that's the gift we give as immigrant parents.
Hmm. Hmm.
That thing you call about identity, because I mean, it almost feels like that. So the thing you say about identity, I want to tie it, or maybe ask that identity. At some point, you dropped out of engineering in U of T, and then you go, and somehow along the way, yo, let me call you yo becomes an immigrant career guide. And I'm just, in all of that, like, how did you get to the immigrant career guide, honestly? Like, because again, also, I would dare say that, because I think I know fairly enough about Indian parents. They do behave like Nigerian parents. And I can imagine you telling your Nigerian parent that I want to become an immigrant career guide, career coach, you know. And so I'm just wondering, like, with all the identity struggles and all that, like, how did you get here? Because this is a very interesting point to get to, and it also says a lot about your sense of self. But I just want to know how
Hmm.
you got to this point.
Yeah, so I'll give you some context, right? So I am like in a family of five, and I'm one of three brothers, and I'm the middle one.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's a separate conversation about a middle child syndrome, right? And how middle children are just, they're just different, right?
Yeah.
And
I have one
it's
right
actually a
now.
thing. It's actually a thing. So I, because with parenting and having three kids, and if you're the middle one, right, the parents obviously give a lot of time, love, affection to the older one. That's
Hmm.
the first one. And but then also they get, responsibility and high
Yeah.
expectations and stuff. And then the younger one also gets not as much responsibilities, but more so the love, the attachment, the affection. And then the middle one is a little different, because you don't get too much of either of those things, right?
Yeah.
And for me, it became more complicated because I was so attached to my grandma.
Hmm.
And so the forming that bond with my parents became even more complex, because now they were attached to my older sibling, right? And super attached to my younger sibling, right? So psychologically, that had quite a bit of an impact for me and my identity, especially growing up and then transitioning into Canada. Now, with regards to dropping out of engineering, right? So I've always been more of like a people person. So I love, meeting people, talking to people, super curious, very intrigued by people, personalities, cultures, ethnicities, all of that stuff. So when I did first year in engineering, everything I was learning over there was completely a misfit for my personality, right? So I was like sitting and doing like math problems and physics problems, and I mean, and I did fairly well because I had that strong academic background from my Dubai days. But then something felt like really, really missing for me. And this is where I really stood up against my parents' wishes, because Indian parents, Chinese,
Yeah.
Nigerian, any
Yeah.
Asian
Oh
parents
yeah.
typically, right? It's
Yeah.
like either doctor, engineer, lawyer,
Oh
accountant,
yeah.
right? Like if you don't fit one of those four, it's like,
You're
what
a
are you doing?
failure.
Yeah, you're failure. Yeah.
I was supposed to be a
So
doctor actually.
there you go. See, yeah. So thankfully they didn't push me, too hard. So obviously they were upset that, what, like, we really wanted you to finish engineering from UFT, one of Canada's top institutions. And I said, what, I can do it. It's not that I can't do it, but I would not enjoy it, and then I would feel like, 4 years of my life have gone.
Yeah.
And then career wise also, I didn't foresee myself working as an engineer, right?
Hmm.
Now, interestingly, both my brothers, my older and my younger brothers, are engineers. Yeah. So that was
The
the
middle
added
child. The
pressure.
middle
The middle
child.
child, right? They're like, oh, your older brother did engineering, he did well, and now look at him, he's got a good job. And your younger brother plans to do engineering. So what the hell is wrong with you? Like, why don't you want to do that? And then they said, okay, fine, not engineering, maybe something related. So do like medicine, do accounting, become a lawyer, like psychology. Who does psychology, right? So yeah, so that was, I remember that was a big struggle for me internally. But I said, you know what, let me just do it. And because that's my passion, that's my interest. And I finished 4 years, and then after finishing 4 years, I was like, I can't really do much with a psychology degree, and I almost started like regretting doing psychology. But
Hmm.
then thankfully I had the guidance of my older brother, and he said, you know what, Johan, it's not, there's nothing wrong in just having a psychology degree, because in fact this gives you a stepping stone to do many things with your degree. So there is school psychology, there's counseling psychology, you can become a
Oh.
psychologist, a psychiatrist, you can. And then this new field which I got into, which was just evolving at that time, which is basically organizational psychology, which
Oh,
is what I
interesting.
went on to do my master's in, which is psychology but at the workplace. So it
Hmm.
combines business with psychology. So he said, you know what, that is, there is a good future over there, there's good money over there, which is going to make you happy and our parents happy, so go with that
I
option.
love your elder brother.
Right, so maybe you may not be able to earn as much as an engineer, but this at least is the best you can get to, an
Yeah.
engineering job in terms of finances. So I did that, I loved it, right? So it was my passion for people, but also then my passion for how do things work at the workplace, and what makes people engaged, what makes people satisfied, why do people put in more effort and some people don't put in effort, what causes people to leave organizations, leave bosses, what makes a boss good versus a bad boss, and a toxic boss and a good leader. So all of those topics I explored in my masters. And then thankfully I was able to get a job right after graduation. And then one thing led to another, and I ended up spending 15 years doing various consulting jobs in big name companies. But then as I was going through that path, back, I would say in 2020, so just right when COVID hit, March 2020, I felt that there's something still missing, right? Like, I'm working for all these big companies, doing multi-million dollar projects, and helping them saving cost and profits and automation and all of this. But I said, I got into psychology to help people,
Hmm.
right? But in this way, I'm not really helping people, I'm helping organizations. So that was the missing piece for me. Then I so so this is when I thought about, okay, what else can I do? And ironically, at the same time, with COVID, there was a lot of people requiring help, and specifically help with their careers, right? So this is what then sparked the idea that, you know what, there might be a path over here where I can help people. And a lot of people requiring the help were immigrants. And
Mm.
since I had already been on the journey, uh, they actually started reaching out to me saying, you know, Johan, we see that you've been working at Deloitte, you worked for Accenture, Walmart before. How do we get into these companies? Or I just got laid off. How do I get back into the market? Right. And then that's what started the career coaching journey.
I like how you got there. Honestly, your elder brother deserves a Nobel Prize. And now let me go. Now this is I like harder because now the real question, the other question I was going to ask is like, first of all, I love that your framework, which says soul search before job search. I really love that framework, and I think that one of the theories I have in my head is always that the immigrant is almost like a middle child in a way. You come here and you're not sure of where you stand. Back home, you once you stay here for a bit, you're not exact you literally move on from your back home. You just have nostalgia, but the society moves on from you.
Mhm.
Here in Canada, for example, yeah, you don't exactly really fit in. Like, they tell you I mean, there's all the advice, there's the stuff, there's everything, just a lot of things going on. So I feel like immigrants are like middle children in a way. It's like you're like an in-betweener somewhere. And then you now start job hunting, and then all those things hit. Like, so you get rejections, you get, they say no kind of experience. There's also a ton of things that happen to you. And I just wonder is like, how often do you see yourself in people when you talk to them?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. So I actually see that a lot. And I see, people who come here, obviously they're lost, they're confused and stuff. But I feel that, the big struggle that I see for these people is around communications, around relationship building, right? Which is what even though I was educated in like an English school, and that school in Dubai was like one of the top schools in the country, and English was no problem for me. But then, even then, moving to a new country, you still
Yeah.
have, the way the people speak over here, the accent,
Mm,
what to say, what not to say, when to
mm.
say certain things, right? Very, very different. So when I hear people, I hear, you know, that this is exactly how I used to speak 25 years ago, right? And so yes, I definitely see myself in them. And then I see the fact that, a lot of these people, especially students who came here, just like me, I was a
Yeah.
student as well, right? So they are trying to fit in terms of making friendships, um, trying to fill the void of not having their parents with them, right? Which is pretty much
Yeah.
reality for a lot of like
Yeah.
students,
Yeah.
international students and stuff. So it's not just about studying and doing a good job, but there's so much more outside of that, right?
Yeah.
Trying to save some money, and working odd jobs. And so yeah, I see myself, because I did all of that as well.
Hmm.
It was a while ago, but the same stuff exists even 25
Oh
years later.
yes, which is sad
Yes.
though, but which is sad. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was fortunate that I came over here with like my parental support, and we came on a PR as opposed to, like a student visa or an
Mm.
open work permit, which obviously complicates matters
Yeah.
more from a job search perspective as opposed to
Yeah.
coming from at a PR. And also the job market, like night and
Just
day difference,
yeah.
back when I came and now in 2025, right? But what I try to do is, when I talk to people, of course I will try to not have them make the same mistakes I made, because there's so much I've learned. So when they talk to me, just in like a 30-minute conversation, they have accelerated like 3 or 4 years that they would have spent making mistakes or doing things that they shouldn't be doing. So they feel very grateful for spending those 30 minutes with me, and they're like, oh wow, like I would have just done this, or I would have kept on doing this. Right? So I'm privileged to be having those discussions with them. And then because I've worked in this country now for like 15 years, I know quite well how the job market works, what works in terms of getting people interviews. Forget about job offers, but even interviews, which is what
Yeah.
a lot of people struggle with,
Yeah.
right? And then, of course, I've built a lot of connections, especially in the Toronto market, like recruiters, hiring managers, industry professionals, leaders, during my consulting years. Because when you consult with the big companies, you consult with different companies, right?
Mm,
So I
mm.
consulted with Amazon, with TD Bank, with RBC, with universities, with the government, with retail. So leveraging those connections and those friendships to now help job seekers.
I find that thing you say interesting, and I was going to ask another question, but this one just kind of piqued my interest because those are very different cultures. Like it's Amazon, RBC, TD Bank. They're all different companies, different cultures, different kinds of people.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I always think about this thing where how do you help someone identify not just the companies they want to work for, but the cultures that will actually fit them? Like, you know how, and it's, for immigrants, I think it's extremely important because you're just trying to settle in, you're new to the country. And so I feel like people want to get jobs and get salaries and start paying their bills, but you can also get a job and lose it almost immediately. Which I think there's this stat that says immigrants tend to lose a lot of them lose their jobs in the first 90 days. And most times is a cultural conversation, not a
Hmm.
skill conversation. So how do you help? Can you help people say, hey, I don't think you would fit in at Shopify just because of this, but I think you'll probably do well at this role in Amazon because you've got this, and that. Is that possible?
Yes, yes. So that's actually, when I start coaching anyone, that's actually part of my initial conversation with them. It's something called career clarity. That is pretty much part of my second coaching call, right? The
Mm-hmm.
first one's focused on mindset and helping break all of those limiting beliefs, those weird thought patterns. So that's coaching call number one. But then coaching call number two is more about like soul searching, like you said before, job searching, right? So this is where I really help people understand themselves better, right? So who are you as a person? What are your interests? What are your skills? What are your strengths? What kind of people will you work with? What kind of work will energize you as opposed to draining you? What kind of cultures is where you will thrive as opposed to survive, right? And because I have friends in all these companies, and I've consulted for these companies, I have a fairly good understanding of like a Shopify versus a TD versus an Amazon versus government of Canada, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, every company has many different cultures within it, which
Yes.
is defined by the leader of that team,
Yes.
right? Which you don't really know unless you work for that leader,
Yeah.
right? But I can tell them that generally speaking, if you were to work for a Deloitte as opposed to working for an Accenture, both huge consulting companies, but these are the nuances you would
Mm.
notice on that level. So yeah, certainly I can guide them through that. Now, a lot of job seekers and immigrants initially they come here and they're like, Johan, I've worked for Microsoft back home or IBM and this, so I'm not going to take on working
Oh
for like a
gosh.
small name company, right? So they come with that perception. Sometimes ego comes in the way as well.
Yes.
I was a director back there, I have 20 years of experience. Are you going to tell me now to work in an entry level role? That's not going to fit for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is where we need to have some really strategic intentional conversations, right?
Mm.
I don't believe that someone who has gained experience and has expertise built should come over here and start from scratch just because it's a new country. I don't believe in that, right? But at the same time, I also don't believe that just because you are VP back home, you can right away come in and begin a VP level role,
Yeah.
right? That also does not always work, right? So we have to really assess, what is it that person can really realistically achieve, And
Yeah.
then I guide them through that path. So they're not spending like months and months and months applying to the wrong roles, applying to the wrong companies, applying to the wrong levels where they're either under or overqualified, right?
Yeah.
I also guide them through companies which are more acceptive of lack of Canadian experience or no Canadian experience versus companies and
That's interesting.
recruiters where they look at your profile and they're like, oh, this person's come from Nigeria, come from India. I don't see any Canadian experience. And there are a lot of companies and recruiters who assess people just with that fact. Doesn't matter what they've done back home, their role, their title, doesn't matter. They see, I don't see any Canadian experience. You know what? Let's move on to the next person without even giving them a chance, just assessing someone based on a piece of paper, right? So, and people waste a lot of time applying to these kind of companies, right? So I guide them through that. You know what? This company, I know the recruiter, and this recruiter will never hire someone who doesn't have Canadian experience. So you might as well don't apply over there unless you have a very strong internal recommendation or referral from them,
Hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
essentially, what I'm trying to get people to do is spend their time wisely, right? I find it very, very frustrating when people spend hours and days and weeks and months looking for a job and getting like minimum number of interviews. That's a huge pet peeve of mine. So that's my passion is basically to get people the right role with the right company in the right culture, which is going to be really fulfilling, where they will thrive in the fastest possible time. Like
Yeah.
it should not take you 3 months. It should not take you 6 months. Doesn't matter if you came here with zero experience or you came here as a director VP. Doesn't matter. You still are able to achieve a good job that pays you your worth
Yeah.
in a fastest possible time.
Okay, I think I have one more question for you, but before that, when you said that thing about the ego and stuff, I remember when I just landed in Canada, someone offered me I knew someone, they referred me for a VP role
Hmm.
or no, or a senior director role in an agency, and I told my friends, and I rejected the interview. I said I can't do it. My friend said that that's ridiculous. Like literally, you're almost a senior manager back home in Nigeria. You should be able to just step into that role and stuff because
Hmm.
it's you are senior manager at or a manager at a I was a manager at Diageo, which is like a global
Hmm.
company. So that's an
Hmm.
agency. And I'm like, no, like I said, these are different countries, different cultures.
Hmm. Hmm.
I would literally just go in there and just shatter my confidence because there's people management that I don't. So I didn't understand the culture. Like, so why would I? Why would you do? Why would I do that to myself? I remember someone told me I was ridiculous, and at some point I told myself maybe I was ridiculous, but I moved on. I think the last question I have for you is I want to challenge something. I really do like the framework, but let's just imagine. Let's play devil's advocate here and say someone who's really desperate for an income, like what would you say to that person? Because like the person's like, I need to pay my bills, and so you're telling me soul search before I start job searching. Like it's like, but I want to pay my bills.
Yeah, no, that's an amazing question as well. And that happens all the time, right? It is people who literally don't have any savings, right? And it's like, okay, now what do I do? Like I know for a fact that it's going to take me a few weeks, few months to land something, but what do I do between now and then, right? And so in that case, we're not really looking at getting someone into their profession because their goal and their priority is to put food on the table, right?
Mm,
So in that case, what I help them with is getting a job. Like I wouldn't call it a survival job, but getting a job which is still somewhat related to their profession,
that's interesting.
okay, or has transferable skills to their profession,
Oh, I like
right?
that.
Which will also then pay the bills for them. So, for example, if someone says, you know what, I have HR experience, I'm struggling to get an HR job, I have no savings, like I just need something, right? Typically, what will happen is they will end up working in like a Walmart as a cashier, McDonald's, Tim Hortons, right? Nothing wrong with that. Like no, no disrespect. And in fact, a lot of people who I really admire have gone through that journey, right?
Mm,
But what I would focus on instead is, okay, tell me what area of HR do you want to focus on. So let's say they say, Johan, I want to focus on training, right? So now if the focus is on training and development, certainly you can work in like a Tim Hortons or a McDonald's and take on more of like a shift supervisor or a team lead role, where you will be mentoring, coaching, training, hiring, onboarding people, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to taking on, let's say, a telemarketing job or a sales job, right? Where the transferable skills to your ideal role aren't as prevalent
Yeah.
or as obvious.
I like that. I like
So
that
this is
framework
why.
actually. I really like that
Mhm.
framework. That's a really good way to think about it. Because I feel like we get so caught up in, oh, I just want to get paid the bills. But you're not saying, okay, oh
Mhm.
yes, you want to pay the bills, but okay, but at least make sure that
Correct.
whatever you're doing is heading towards your goal. Which again ties to the soul search before you job search again, in a way.
Exactly. Because I've seen a
Yeah.
lot of people who, for example, their background was finance or HR or marketing, but then they said, Johan, it's so easy to get into, a customer service job, right? It's not too hard to get into like online customer service job. But then what I found is these people who get into this job continue doing that for many, many years, right? And now it's like, wow, like I just spent, so many years of my career and my life doing something that is completely out of sync of what I did back home or what's my interest or what I have my education or my certifications in,
Hmm.
right? And then they come back after 10 years, they're like, oh wow, like I just spent like 10 years of my life doing this.
Gosh.
And then it becomes very difficult to pivot back after
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
So this is why I say, get something that's somewhat, if you know exactly what you want, get something that's related to that with transferable skills, because then you can quickly pivot back into the profession of your choice.
Yeah.
So that soul searching and that career clarity, like I don't start any coaching unless we have that session first. So it's
Hmm.
not about your resume or getting you a job, it's about identifying your target and either getting right to your target if you have the financial means to be able to support until we get there, or if you cannot, then getting you something quickly, but somehow related to
Thank you.
that.
Like honestly, like that's thank you. Like
Yeah.
I see why you get for land folks a lot of roles. But
Yeah.
thank you so much
So
for coming on the podcast. This was really, really good, honestly. Thank you, Johan.
thank you so much, Dozzy. And I mean, we've only scratched the surface over here, but
Yeah,
yeah, happy to come on maybe another episode in the future,
that would be
or
awesome. That would be
or
awesome,
just
honestly.
share my thoughts. I mean, I share this kind of advice on my LinkedIn almost every day.
Mm,
So it's not your typical advice where people will say, oh, what to put on your resume, LinkedIn. I mean, there's thousands of people who do that. I
yeah.
try to put out there that usually you wouldn't see other
Mm,
career coaches or advisors
mm,
post. And I put things that are very much real and raw. I don't like to sugarcoat things, right?
mm.
So people will say, oh, you know what, do this and you'll get a job in like 30 days.
Nah.
And I can guarantee you that if you do that, you will not get a job in
Joe,
30 days,
I
right?
agree.
So I don't like to, because job seekers are already struggling, right? There's
Yes.
already so much struggle, and then if you start making false promises to them or raise their hopes high by saying do this or sign up for my course or follow this, it's like you're misleading people, right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah. Um,
Thank you.
I've really enjoyed my time, Dozy, and yeah, hopefully we can have one more of these soon.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you. Like, thank you so much. Like, thanks a
thank you,
bunch.
thank you. Grateful as well.
Thank you so much for getting to this point of the podcast. If you enjoy this, please share this with someone you know who find it useful. If you know someone we should talk to, please send them my way. As always, on Substack, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere you get your podcast, you can find this story with Johan on there. Have a good one, people. Ciao.